All right, and and we are live with another episode of the Keeg Talks. Today, the Keeg Talks, Guardians of the Galaxy Vol.3. It's that show brought to you by the Keeg, where we talk about different geek topics every geek week. I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and if you're watching this live, you're watching this on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. You can see who our guests are that I've invited on this show to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But if you're listening to the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from, then you won't know who's guesting on this show. And I got to introduce them. First off, we got first-timer to the Keeg Talks, but not first-timer to the Keeg as a whole. We have cosplayer/content creator Aaron Gaines. Aaron, how you doing today, man?
Hey, so far so good. Happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here too, because last time I had you on, it was on the Instagram live chat. And I've been meaning to get you on for a long time, and I'm like, Aaron has to have seen Guardians, right?
I did, yeah. I saw it just for you. That's not true, but I would have.
I don't even know what Guardians is. I'm just gonna do it because Dimithri asked me to. I got a lot of catching up to do.
There's 3? What?
3 plus everything else that's like peripheral, right? Like Infinity War and Endgame and the holiday special.
It's a whole collection at this point.
Maybe Thor: Love and Thunder. That's a Guardians.
Oh yeah.
It has that Guardians bit in the beginning.
Yeah, a couple minutes worth anyway. So
yeah, you get to see Thor do the splits, and the Guardians get upset at him. So I get it. There's a lot of Guardian stuff out there. I'm glad to have you on though. There's a lot to talk about this movie, and I know you got opinions.
Oh yeah, always. We'll always have opinions.
Yeah. Our second guest, she's been on the show before, on a lot of DC related stuff. I don't know if this is the first Marvel related thing that Cailin has been on. Cailin Dorothy, Comics by Cailin. Cailin, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a nice and sunny day and not cold for the first time in a while.
Because you're on the East Coast, right?
I'm on the East Coast, and it's been like 50s, low 60s up until today. It's like finally in the 70s.
I'm over here in California, so things are still weird. Weather's still weird, but not in the same way.
Yeah.
It's raining a lot over there, isn't it?
It has been.
Right.
For it was like February, March. No, like January, February, March. It was like raining a lot, and that's not normal around here. But it's May now. The way I see it is when my birthday happens, that's when the weather starts getting good. So I'm kind of like Punxsutawney Phil in a way.
Is your birthday
the groundhog
coming up?
No, it happened in April. It was April 6th.
Did I miss your birthday?
I mean,
I'm terrible.
Wow.
Okay. I don't advertise my birthday.
So
it's okay.
Oh. My birthday's coming up.
Okay, I'll make sure to miss it.
That's fair.
Enough about weather, because I feel like what is this, weather podcast, whatever, meteorologists. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is a movie that everybody's been waiting for years. How is this gonna end, quote unquote end, and all that, and hopefully everybody who's out there listening to us, watching us, has already seen the movie, because we're gonna be going in depth about spoilers. This is a show to watch after you watch your things. Before Volume 3 and everything, how do you guys have any experiences with the characters before even the first movie came out? Not very many people had.
No.
Even as like a comics fan, I knew of Guardians of the Galaxy. I was never interested in them because their comic book comic book team was a little bit different, and then they had a different team, and they just never interested me that much. And when they announced they were gonna do a Guardians movie for the MCU, I'm like, I was like Jamon Hansu, like, who? Guardians? What?
Yeah.
Most people didn't have any idea what to expect.
Right.
Yeah.
But then the first movie came out.
Yeah, even then, like when that first movie came out, I had not seen like a lot of the MCU movies at that point. I'm a very late bloomer when it comes to the
Same.
MCU.
Yeah.
I just knew of the movie because at the time I was doing a high school production of Footloose, and I was playing Kevin Bacon's role, and my friend was like, "Oh, you need to go see Guardians of the Galaxy." I'm like, "Why?" And they said, "Oh, they mentioned Kevin Bacon in Footloose." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And then like 6 years later, I finally watched it, and I was like, "Oh wow, there's the reference."
That's such a weird, like, who enters the MCU or Guardians of the Galaxy through Kevin Bacon? Out of
Right.
nowhere.
But then it kind of came full circle.
Right. With the
Exactly.
holiday
Like I
special?
always
Right. It comes full
exactly.
circle.
Yeah. And then you watch it years later, and how'd you guys feel about the movie? Like, the tone of the movie is so different than like anything we had seen up until that point, whether it's MCU
We're still talking
or
about the first
otherwise.
one.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, so I'm similar. I'm also kind of a MCU late bloomer. I had seen the first two Thor movies in theaters, but I hadn't really like fully invested. I hadn't seen anything else MCU. I was a DC person, and for some reason was like, no, I don't care about Marvel. I only care about DC. We forget that exists. Um, but then my dad was like, no, you really should like check out this Guardians movie. You really need to watch it. And I was also weirdly like terrified of anything to do with aliens for quite a long time. Like high school, early college, if it had aliens, I wouldn't watch it. And so I was like very adamant, I'm not going to watch Guardians. And then finally I gave in and watched it, and that's where my love of the MCU sparked. Like from that movie I went back and watched everything and became wholeheartedly obsessed. And it was Baby Groot was my first Funko Pop.
Oh, everybody loves Baby Groot. There's so much to
Oh,
love
absolutely.
about Guardians as a series for everybody, right?
Right.
But like
Groot was definitely the one that got me hooked.
Is Guardians your guys' favorite MCU series? It doesn't have to be for the. You're not getting kicked off the podcast if it isn't.
Just leave. Just
Oh,
immediately ban.
It's hard to pick a favorite. See, I want to say, part of me wants to say yes, but at the same time, so many of my favorite MCU movies are Captain America and Spider-Man.
Okay.
Like I really love the Captain America and I mean, I kind of wish that the Captain America trilogy was a true trilogy, because the third feels more like an Avengers movie. But it's still one of my favorites. You know, Winter Soldier is my all-time favorite, and I adore Spider-Man so much. But I don't know, maybe I need to go back and rewatch all three Guardians in a row and then reevaluate.
Yeah.
Because I mean, especially this last one, oh my God.
This last, like number 3.
Like number 3,
oh,
like
yeah.
I was sitting in the theater just sobbing.
I mean, we will. Oh, there's a lot to talk about there.
We'll get into that.
Aaron, were you gonna say something?
Yes, I was gonna say I'm right there with you when it comes to like Captain America and Spider-Man. It's like I try to exclude Spider-Man because he's always gonna win no matter what. I mean, for the listeners, I'm sitting in a Spider-Man chair right now, so it's like he's always gonna
hanging up next to me.
Exactly. But I mean, I'm with you. Like, I think I need to go back and rewatch all of these in a row, and then I can rightfully judge on whether it's between Guardians and Captain America for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to be like gravitate towards like individual characters. I mean, obviously, I love the Guardians as a team, and the Guardians are a better team than the Avengers in terms of like how they work together. But I would say like Groot. If like Groot had his own franchise, then I would probably say like the Groot franchise, because I love him so much. But I guess as far as like the individual characters, I'd have to say like Cap or Spidey.
I feel like Guardians might be my favorite series out of them. Like Spider-Man, the MC. I love the MCU Spider-Man, and I love all the MCU stuff, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely.
But if we're talking about like I still defend Guardians number 2. Like I love Guardians 2. Like
that's great.
I thought everybody did.
I mean,
but I was wrong.
Some people hate on Guardians.
Why? It's wonderful.
Did you guys like it?
I love Guardians too. I
Absolutely.
have a hard time deciding which. I mean, I think overall I like the first one more than the second one. But there are moments in the second that I love more. Honestly, part of why I love the second and it makes it so hard for me to decide which one I like more is because then we have Baby Groot.
There.
And
Oh,
I adore Baby Groot more than life itself. The best scene in the entire franchise is like him wanting to press the buttons and Rocket yelling at him.
yeah.
I stand by that.
James Gunn has done something so beautifully with all of these movies. Because Baby Groot reminds me of like just the soundtrack of all these
Mm.
movies and how it's built into the movie itself.
Yeah, they're not just playing, like it's a core part of the story.
Like, and it's Peter's mixtapes, right? And then
Hmm.
later in this one, a Zune. Um, but like I think about like Volume 2 starting off with Baby Groot dancing through all the
Yeah,
action.
yeah.
There's
One of
something
the
that
best opening
James
sequences.
Gunn he does such a great job. He could, I don't know. Other people can't take his spot, right? Like I don't feel like
Right.
many
No.
directors can do what he does. He does it. I mean, it is unabashedly James Gunn. I'm not saying that James Gunn is the
Yeah.
best in everything. But like,
No. The Guardians would not like there are some movies where if you switched the director, it would be the same movie. But if you switched the Guardians director for anybody that wasn't James Gunn, it would not be the same movies
Yeah, he's
at
definitely
all.
got a very specific style of storytelling with really all of his projects. Like he's one
Yeah.
of those directors you can watch any of his projects and you can tell it's like that's a James Gunn movie. Like whether it be
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo or whether it be the Suicide Squad or Guardians of the
Hmm.
Galaxy, like he's got that stamp on it.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel like there's only a handful of directors where you can really like you watch this movie and you just feel the director in it.
yeah.
I feel like
Hmm.
another director that I feel his style so significantly in the movies would be like oh crap, I'm blanking on his name.
Well, you
Joe
gotta know.
Johnston. Joe Johnston.
Oh, okay.
The director, the guy who directed the first Captain America. He's directed some of my other like he directed Jumanji, Hidalgo, The Rocketeer. There's something so specifically nostalgic about his like I just watched The Rocketeer the other day with my roommate. She had never seen it before. I obviously feel nostalgic because I've seen that movie since I was a kid. But she felt the nostalgia and it was her first time watching that movie because there's something about his style that like is in his
Hmm.
movies.
Did Joe Johnston do Jurassic Park 3?
Yes. I think he did do one of the Jurassic Park movies.
Yeah,
I
it
think
was
it was
number
the
3.
third.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and he did Jumanji.
yeah.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh wow.
There are a couple directors that like it's what's called auteur theory, where it's like a
Mm,
director being like, this is a part of me. I'm gonna see
yeah.
every aspect and make it like my own. Hitchcock, Spielberg, J.J.
Yeah.
Abrams does it, right? Like Michael
Hmm.
Bay. To,
Yeah.
to I mean, it doesn't mean you're
Michael
good or
Bay.
bad. It doesn't mean you're good
Right,
or
but
bad.
there's
It just means that is unabashedly your project.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, and James Gunn does it.
definitely.
The
Absolutely.
music of Guardians has like it's introduced me to new old music.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
saw a meme that said that showed like two guys on like dressed in like 70s disco outfits lying on a bed of cash, and it was like when 70s bands like what get I'm gonna butcher
Like
it.
they
I'm
when
gonna
they get when they
like
get like added to the Guardians soundtrack.
yeah 70s artists in 2022 or 23, I forget which year it is, when their song gets added to
23.
Guardians.
Yeah,
Yeah. um
yeah, definitely.
yeah so
I
so
mean, it's definitely the music is just a lot of that is music I kind of grew up with because that's music my dad has always played since I was a kid.
yeah
Um, but yeah, I agree. It was like it's further introduced me to other songs and other artists.
yeah um what were our expectations for Guardians 3, like before we even we watched it? Like what did we want? Because what did we want?
I think it's just it's odd because like it came out relatively so soon after a finale of sorts with Avengers Endgame. And so now we're gonna have another finale of another team, and it's happening so quickly. And so it was just, with speculation of Batista, Dave Batista saying he's going to be done after this, and this person saying they're going to be done after this. It's like, oh, this is going to be riddled with death and despair, and this is just going to make me sad. But as we'll get into later, I'm sure, is that it really wasn't that. Like, it was that in other areas, but it wasn't like a sorrowful ending for a team that we've seen for the last like 9 years.
Yeah.
I would agree. I was fully expecting to lose a core member, and I hadn't even like seen the trailers. I avoided trailers like the plague. I straight up, when I was at the movies to see Dungeons and Dragons, during the pre-show trailers that came on, I walked out of the theater so I wouldn't have to see it. Like, dedicated to avoiding trailers. But I still
you didn't see any of the Guardian, like these trailers before you saw
for the third movie. I didn't see any trailers. I avoided them like crazy. Straight up walking out of movie theaters to avoid them. I'm not kidding. I don't like to watch trailers. I will admit, I finally saw the Marvels trailer yesterday for the first time, sitting in the theater.
You have to.
But I try to, as much as possible, avoid Marvel trailers now, because I'm gonna see it anyway. You don't need to show me a poster. You don't need to show me a trailer. You just need to tell me the name of the movie and when it's coming out, and I will be there because I'm going to see it regardless, and I want to maximize my surprise. So, but unfortunately, even though I hadn't seen the trailer, I had heard through word of mouth like sad scenes of Rocket in the trailer. So there were like theories about Rocket that I hadn't heard going around that I was trying to ignore, but only ignore them so much.
Yeah.
So I had like expectations that sad stuff was going to happen and that we were going to lose a core member. And sad stuff happened. But we didn't lose, so that's good.
Right. Yeah, I think I think people thought that, like, because somebody said they're not coming back, that they will kill the character off. Like, and just to stop them from even changing their mind. They're like, sorry, dude, you died. We can't have you back. That'll show you. But James Gunn has an insane loyalty to the people that he works with. It doesn't mean that they never die, right? But, like, it just means that, like, he wants to continue working with them, whatever that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, with this movie, when the trailer came out, like, I think that, like, some trailers are just cobbled together by advertising agencies, but I feel like James Gunn trailers have James Gunn's say in it. Like, I like to believe, because they work the soundtrack, they do all that stuff. They're works of art in and of itself, like a trailer. And I don't think the Guardians trailer for this one gave anything away, because I went in with my theories. and I was wrong. And then I'm fine with the way it ended, but I'm still, my heart is still broken.
Yeah.
My heart, I don't know why I'm blurry right now, but like my heart was broken. And do you guys have any like theories before you saw the movie? Not Cailin, because
not me.
Yeah, but Aaron, do you have any?
The way they were kind of leading it to be was, it looked like that Rocket was gonna die. I mean, he was on life support in the trailers, and I mean throughout the whole movie he was on life support.
Yeah.
And then people had these theories of in the first Guardians logo, it's like this rustic looking thing. It's like, who looks rustic? Groot. And Groot, quote unquote, died in that one. And then the second Guardians, the title card was blue, and it's like, oh, who's blue? Yondu. And he died. Yeah. And so then when this one came out and it had a gray hue to it, everyone's like, oh crap, Rocket and Drax are gray. And it's so they were, and so I was kind of falling in with that as well, because I mean, James Gunn, he has subtle ways of dropping these things, so it's like Maybe. I mean, like, but would they put that so blatantly out there for people to guess it? Is
Right.
it too on the nose? So
Hmm.
I eventually just kind of, at this point with Marvel movies, I just shut my brain off and just go in and watch them, because
Yeah.
if you just start spouting off theories and start spouting off all these things based off of leaked info that wasn't even reputable, then you're, I don't know. A lot of people don't manage their expectations well, and I was one of them at
Hmm.
one point. So I'm like, you know what? We're just gonna go blank, go cold, and then whatever I get, I get.
Yeah. Before we start talking about the movie itself, I had made a TikTok talking about the odds of people dying, because I did go in thinking somebody was going to die, one of the core
Yeah,
people,
fair.
something, and I threw out a little odds, even though the odds don't matter. I don't know how to gamble, so I don't know how numbers work, but I was trying to look at it from a storytelling perspective, and I was like, okay, I think the least likely to die is Gamora, because she's died
Hmm.
before. They're not going to kill her again.
Yeah.
That was like 1
True.
to 1,000 odds. Then I said 1 to 100 odds, Groot, because I was like, he already died. He was reborn. Could he die again and then be reborn again? They could pull that, but it's not that likely. And then I also
Mhm.
went into it being like, I think Rocket is going to live. Everybody thought Rocket was going to die. I was like, I don't feel like James Gunn is going to torture this character for so long and then have a movie about his torture and then kill him. I think he's going
Yeah.
to get a happy
Fair.
ending. And I was wrong about what the happy ending was, and this is why I'm so broken. In the comics,
What did
Rocket's soulmate is Lila. Lila
Mhm.
is still alive in the comics. And I thought he was going to have a happy ending with Lila in the movie. I thought that, sure, there's the flashback, but I thought the hug there. Cailin didn't see it, but in the trailer, there's a moment she gets out of the cage and she hugs him. I thought that
Uh-huh.
was in the present.
Mm.
I thought that was a
Um,
reuniting scene, and I thought that like he's gonna have his happy ending, he's gonna have it with Lila. And then I just go through all the people, but basically who I thought was gonna die. I thought Kraglin was gonna die, because I thought he's the
okay.
most expendable, and I thought like he could have a big hero, like he could finally work his arrow and be a hero and then die. And then I also thought like Drax would die because, you know, to be with his daughter.
Yeah.
Storytelling
Yeah.
wise, I could see it.
Hmm.
I was wrong about all of that. Well, not all of that, but like Rocket did live and Lila died, and I still like it's so hard not to cry about those
Yeah.
characters. And the
The
heaven
bunny floor. Floor.
and
Floor is the
Teefs,
one that really got me. Teefs too, but Floor was just like a little baby.
yeah. Floor was one who got. I mean, Lila first and foremost. I'm like,
They all got me, but it was like when I saw Floor specifically, there's something about like a little baby bunny that just feels extra innocent. I literally
Yeah.
like was seeing like I went to sleep last I when I went laid down to go to sleep last night, I closed my eyes, all I could see was Floor. I was just seeing Floor and I was like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry.
and the heaven scene. It just
Yeah.
Yeah.
it killed me. That
Yeah.
yeah. So we start off this movie with a couple things that they kind of like hinted at in the holiday special, because there's a big jump right after
Hmm.
Endgame to the holiday special. Only Thor Love and Thunder takes place in between those, but you don't see much of like what the Guardians new
Yeah.
goal is. But in the holiday
Right.
special you see that like, yeah, they're running nowhere. They're members of the community, you know. But we start this movie off with Quill being completely wasted and Rocket being
Yeah.
depressed. How'd you guys feel about the start of this? Is that where
I
we,
mean,
we thought this was gonna start?
I feel like it kind of almost picked up off the end of the holiday special. They're in that same place, their new normal, their new home, they're the protectors of nowhere, and they're helping to build a society. So that all made sense. It didn't shock me that Star-Lord would kind of just like drink himself into his feelings over Gamora like that. Like I feel like we kind of got an inkling of him heading in that direction with the holiday special. I mean, he was definitely like torn up in his feelings, and of course, the holidays. Anybody who's lost anybody, the holidays make it just that much harder. So that made sense. And they tried not to make it too sad because it is a holiday special. You got to keep it somewhat cheery.
Right.
But I feel like that was a natural progression for his character to then start the film like that he's just like so distraught over the loss of her and feels so empty without her that he's just like kind of tossed aside everything else.
Yeah. Actually, real quick before we get into the specifics, just out of 10 with minimal explanation, how do you guys feel about this movie?
I would on the first watch, I'm gonna give it a solid 8.
Okay.
I would say like 8 or 9. Yeah.
Okay. I watched it once. I was thinking about going again, but I'm like, I don't know if I can handle it back to back. So I will.
I know somebody that's. I know people that saw it twice in 24 hours.
I can't handle it. Like I'm like, it broke me.
Like it was Thursday and people had already seen it twice. I'm like, why?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would love to see it again. I just need some breathing room, you know? I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Like, I also give the Guardians movies very high scores anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
You know, even like Guardians 1 is probably a 10 out of 10, and number 2 to me is like a 9 out of 10, maybe an 8.5. But like, I love them all. So I'm going into it already ready to love it.
Do you like this one more than the first?
Ooh.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think
nice.
I do too.
I think this might be my favorite Guardians movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have to do like a rewatch because I'm seeing it again in about a week. And I'm definitely going to try to get in Guardians 1 and 2 again before going to see it, just to rip my heart out more.
Right.
And yeah, that was just it.
Yeah. I think it comes down to the villain for me.
Yes.
Because I like Ego better than Ronan, the accuser from the first one.
Yeah, Ronan was kind of,
you know, Ego is better, and then I think High Evolutionary is the best.
I was talking with some friends last night, and I think this isn't just Marvel. I feel like as far as like superhero villains go, I can only think of one villain that I think is worse and therefore a better villain. And I'm like so torn between which one I think is worse. It's between the High Evolutionary and Kilgrave from the first season of Jessica Jones. Like,
oh, Kilgrave.
I think
you were gonna say
Kilgrave
Killmonger, but Kilgrave.
No,
Jones.
I mean I love Killmonger.
Yeah.
No, I think Kilgrave is one of the most terrifying villains I've ever seen, and I would put the High Evolutionary up there with him. Like, just the pure disregard for life.
Yes.
I mean,
just
High
purely
Evolutionary...
a despicable. Sorry,
Yeah.
just purely a despicable person.
I would say the High Evolutionary would think that he has the most regard for life.
Yeah, he thinks he does, and therefore has none. Like, he has zero empathy. He doesn't see, like, in the process of trying to build the perfect society, he has lost all sense of humanity.
Right. Right.
Because a good person would not just incinerate them.
Right.
Yeah, the fact he was ready just to destroy a whole entire civilization that he spent decades building, just because there's some people that are not perfect. All right, let's try again. And like, what are you talking about?
What's the quote that Rocket says? He says, "You don't want to make things better. You just hate the way things are."
Yeah, you hate the way they are. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And that struck a chord with me. Like, that was such a profound statement, and I think more people need to hear that.
Yeah. I just watched Last Jedi yesterday again in theaters. And there's a line from it that strikes me as something like that. It's like, something along the lines of like, you don't win the war by fighting what you hate, you win it by protecting those you love, or something like that, right? Like, it's the idea that like love should be the motivation, not hate.
Yeah.
It's not that, the hate of imperfections that's high evolutionary. It's not like
Right.
built from love.
Right. And it's, obviously like we all aren't perfect and we all want to become better as a person, and we're all still growing. And of course, when we see others that we can pass information along to help along with their growth, like that's something we all should do, but without crossing a line.
Right.
Like we don't resort to essentially genocide. We shouldn't resort to genocide.
Yeah, I mean,
Unfortunately,
yeah,
some
I
people
feel like we
have.
can all agree, no genocide. I feel like we all
No
Yeah.
genocide. That's bad. It's bad.
It's quite the red flag, I would say.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you're on a first
Right.
date,
Like, like there's wanting to better yourself and see growth in the world around you, and then there's just, well, we could just obliterate everything that's not good in my mind.
Right.
And let's not do that.
The High Evolutionary is such a great villain, and it makes me wish. I think my only critique about High Evolutionary is I wish I saw more of him before all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I would agree.
because he says he's a fan
Like
of
the
Earth,
hints.
right? He's a fan of Earth. That's what he says, right? Which is where he got all the animals, and that's like what he modeled Counter Earth over. In the comics, Herbert Wyndham is from Earth, and he evolved himself on Earth, then went to space. And that's why he's all about like Earth animals. But in this, he's just a fan of Earth, fan of the music, fan of the culture, but he wants to make it better, right? He's
it's like he's a fan, but it's not good enough.
He's pretentious.
I can make it better.
Yeah, he's that. But I wish I saw like, I mean, is he an alien? I don't like. He's not from Earth, so I guess he's an alien, right?
I agree. It would have been nice to have had some like build up with him, almost in the way we've had with like Thanos, or now we're building to Kang. Like there's something so specifically sadistic about his character. I almost wonder if he should have been like a bigger villain. Just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like ultimately, like the Guardians would still be the ones to have like taken him down because he's so specific to Rocket. But
yeah,
he's so sadistic. I can't.
As we see in this movie, like the plot going forward, Adam Warlock comes in, he does his thing, the Guardians go on a mission to save Rocket. We see a lot of flashbacks, and a lot of this movie hinges on Rocket, right? This is Rocket's story. This is we see it in the flashbacks. Even if Rocket is in a coma half of the movie, 3/4 of the movie, like we're still seeing him in those flashbacks. How'd you guys, let's talk about Rocket's story, right? We see him from being just a normal raccoon with essentially the hand of God reaching for him, right? And it pulls, and then he operates on him. This is something that like we all expected. How did that make you guys feel?
Kind of, I think exactly how maybe the baby Rocket felt at that point. It just felt very vulnerable in a very bad way. It was just you're just seeing this. You already know what this raccoon becomes, like with the robotics and with everything that's happened with him thus far. And so just seeing him, I don't know, just feel so scared and alone in that moment. And then I think that was just it. Like just seeing that hand come through was just so daunting, and it really just kind of made you feel so small, as well as just feeling for this baby animal, because he has no idea what's about to come. We really don't have an idea what's about to come. We just know what comes after. So seeing that process of this trauma that's been alluded to for however many movies now, it was just gut wrenching.
Yeah.
Yeah. I as I was sitting down to the theater, I had a friend who had just finished seeing it text me a trigger warning about animal abuse, and I'm
Yeah.
really glad she did
Yeah.
because I think it would have just been that much harder. Um, I mean, it's interesting because we watch these movies where people die all the time, but there's something so much harder about watching animals because they're pure innocence. Um, and I would agree that that hand reaching in and something that stood out to me during that first scene where the hand is reaching for him is that there's all these other little baby raccoons, and as soon as he's approaching the cage, they all scurry to the back and turn away, and Rocket's the only one facing forward, and that struck me as like the first indication of just the kind of person that
Yeah.
Rocket is going to end up becoming. But at the same time, he's just like this, he's a baby. I was just at my parents' house playing with my cats, and I'm looking at my cats now in a new way, like looking at them like they're just so innocent, and like I can't imagine the type of person that would look at these animals and want to then tear them apart to somehow improve them. Like they're already perfect because they're so pure. Like they've done, there's no wrong that they could do. Like they're pure, they're innocent, they are perfect.
Right. Um, I think because I've been trying to like break down the symbolism because there's a lot of symbolism in this movie. James
Yeah.
Gunn, again, like he tackles everything from multiple angles.
Yeah.
Like in one sense, like something could just be cute, but then other times it's like, oh no, it stands for something. There is symbolism. What does it mean? And it makes me think. And I was thinking about how, like, yes, Rocket is the only person who, and with his normal animal mind, looks straight at God. A false God, right?
Yeah.
But his God, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Everybody else is afraid of God, right? And I feel like in this sense, like, this whole movie hinges on Rocket being more capable than what the High Evolutionary planned for, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not just memorizing things. There's that point where he's like, they're learning through rote memorization. They're intelligent, but they're not inventing things. They can't go
Right.
further than what has already been planned. And that's kind of the thing about humanity and culture is like, you have to have that like inspiration. Isaac
Mhm.
Newton realizing what gravity is. Archimedes, I believe, in the bathtub with displacement. But the point being is
Right.
that like you have to be able to go further than what you've already learned, and
Yeah.
that's something
Yep.
that Rocket does. I think like Rocket faces God because he will eventually surpass him. Like I think that you
Yeah.
can't surpass God until you look at him in the face and see him for the
Mhm.
thing he is. You know.
Yeah.
Right. There was a lot of allusions to religion in
Yeah.
a way with it. I mean, the scene at the end where Star-Lord is, I mean, I thought he was gone.
Yeah.
And then we
When
see
he
Adam
puffs
Warlock
up,
reach
I
for
thought
him.
he was
I was
gone.
like, yeah, he puffed up. I'm like, oh, he's gone. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? That makes sense. I honestly, if they had fully let him go, that would have made so much sense to me. And I would have been okay with that. Like, I feel like that would have almost been like a natural ending to have like him be the one that goes. But, then and Adam Warlock reaches out for him, and it's very much the Sistine Chapel.
Right. What did that scene mean? Those fingers. I've been trying to break it down in my head. Adam Warlock is supposed to be Adam in the comics, like he's the first of a new perfect line of beings, right? But in this, like Peter's not God.
No, well, so in the
Right.
so as far as the hands were, as far as how they were placed, is where my art history classes come in handy. um, I'm trying to remember in the Sistine Chapel. I think it was
God's on the right
was
and
it
he's higher.
it's God on
And
the right reaching, and I
Adam's
think it's
lower.
Adam. Right. So I think Adam
Is God.
Warlock was supposed to be God, and then Peter was Adam. And I'm not sure what it means, but because I mean, I would by no means argue that Adam Warlock is any kind of higher intelligence
No.
at all. But I mean, maybe it was just the whole symbolism of like, within the Sistine Chapel, that imagery is supposed to evoke that God is like saving humanity. He's gifting humanity life. And I guess you could argue that in that scene, like it's Adam gifting Peter back life. He's a goner without him, and now suddenly he's alive again because of him. So
Yeah.
And I don't know if it means more than that, but
Yeah, because like right before that is where I think so it was Groot that said it to Adam Warlock, but it was Drax that translated saying that everybody deserves a second chance. And so
yeah,
that was Adam's redemption arc, but at the same time, maybe it's just putting him in the position of he has such a substantial amount of power, and he was really the only person at that given time that could have saved Star-Lord.
yeah.
And so maybe that was it. Maybe it was just a passing off of I don't know, someone who was created to being the creator of like a second chance, like giving Star-Lord his second chance as well. Because
Yeah.
I mean, to Adam, this is the first near-death experience that he has seen from Star-Lord, and so maybe I don't know, just that spurt of the moment. Let me give him his second chance, as I was just giving my second chance.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads more again to the creation aspect of it, of the creation of Adam with God and Adam and the finger touching.
Yeah.
I could have said that so much better, but you know what I mean. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I mean, you could also see it as Adam is still Adam, but that is the creation of Adam.
Oh.
Right? By saving Peter, this is the birth of Adam, the real Adam. Because somebody had pointed out that like Adam
So
is
many
born.
layers.
Adam is born in this movie. Like he is let out of his cage, or his cocoon, just to fly over to nowhere. Like he didn't exist before this point. Like he was in the cocoon. And
right.
He was taken out early to go straight to Rocket. So he's only been only been alive for like an hour.
It reminds me of Connor in Young Justice, how they open up his cocoon a little too early, and the first thing he does is go on a rampage.
Right.
He also doesn't have like a lot of intelligence yet.
Yeah. And Adam doesn't
Although
know
he's
better,
not quite the himbo. No, Adam doesn't know any better.
Right.
Yeah, Connor's not quite the himbo that Adam is.
Right. That's true.
And what was the creature that Adam, what was it called? The creature that Adam basically adopted from his victim, for lack of a better term.
I just kept calling it a dog, but I know it's not a dog.
We'll call it the dog. It's like a tick dog looking. Not a tick. When I say tick,
reminds me of the
they
funny
Blurp.
Blurp. It reminds me of what was the thing's name in Shang-Chi? The faceless thing with the wings.
Morris, right?
Morris. He reminds me of Morris, except he has a face.
Yeah. On the theme of like
in the same way.
Yeah, on the theme of like creation, like we see Adam, who has just been created, he's seeing the world for the first time. He's basically being taught on what he should be doing, but yet he sees this animal and he sees the innocence of it, even though he just killed the owner. Whereas the high evolutionary is seeing animals as test subjects and seeing them as just something that is what do you call it?
Stepping stones.
Yes. What do you call it? Dispensable? Is that what you said?
Dispensable, yeah.
Yeah. And so maybe it's just like a theme of when something is created, or at like its first stage of life, it has such an innocence to it, and it basically learns bad behaviors. Like I don't think we're inherently bad by nature. I think that people are taught bad behaviors and taught, in the high evolutionaries standpoint, genocide. And so you're kind of seeing just like the stark contrast between someone who is taking creation to an evil standpoint, where somebody who is just, you can learn lessons from someone who has not really experienced this world yet, and they see the finer things in something that's so innocent and small.
I left the movie trying to figure out my thesis for this whole right? Like if I
You
was,
really could write a whole thesis on this.
I mean,
Yeah.
multiple, right? Because there's multiple points that he
Yeah.
tries to convey, right? But I think a
hmm
big thing of, I mean, all these Guardians movies in and of themselves are about this team of broken people who are who they are because of these experiences, good and bad, mostly bad, and
hmm
how like their experiences make them them, but it also makes them miss things. It makes them have holes in their hearts, right?
hmm
Whether they're good, whether they're bad people, you know, it's up to interpretation, but like they are that because of these experiences, right? And that you, even when you can go back in time and change this bad experience, in the case of Gamora coming back is supposed to be like, well, now we brought her back from the dead. She's not the same because
It's not the same, yeah.
she's not the product of her experiences, or she is a product
Yeah.
of experiences that never happened. So she's a different
Yeah.
Gamora. People argue that like, or people thought that like Groot at the end of #1 gets reincarnated as Baby Groot. It's not a reincarnation. He's a different
different
Groot.
group.
He's his son. Let's just say, you know.
Yeah.
He does, if he doesn't have the same memories, if he doesn't have the same experience, he's a different person. That we see it with Gamora, we see it with Groot,
hmm
and you know, like you can't go back and change it, right? You can only move forward. Is kind of what this
hmm
thing shows. You could kill the person who created you. You can do all that stuff, but at the end of the day, like you have to find what works for you. This movie was all about therapy. This movie was all about you have your hurt that you've been going through. How do you move forward? And what's amazing is that nobody dies. Like none of the main, you know, characters die in this movie. In fact, they're, dare I say, reborn again through therapy. They find what works for them moving forward. And that's literally everybody goes off in their own way to feel better, to become better.
Yeah.
Right?
I really appreciate that they didn't end up with Gamora and Peter just back together, because it would have been really easy to have her like super soften and fall back in love with him. But to your point, she's not that person anymore, and she hasn't been through that experiences. And and Peter getting the acceptance that she's not that person was so critical.
Think about who we would be if you went back to like even 5 years ago. Are we different people? Yeah. Like there are lessons that I've learned in 5 years that I cannot give away, even though, you know,
even 2 years ago.
Yeah. But like bad things may have happened, right? In those 5 years, right? In those 2 years. But learning lessons, experiences like 5 years ago, Dimithri, like he's okay. There's nothing bad, but also he's just a different person. He just is.
Yeah.
You know? But like, yeah, that was like my I guess my thesis of this movie is just like these broken people trying to fix themselves, at least in the end.
Yeah.
Were there when it comes to the characters that are in this movie, who was the standout character in this movie? Rocket? Because it was Rocket's movie.
It's interesting. It was Rocket's movie, and while there were like lots of flashbacks, you know, as you said, Rocket was actually not really in most of this movie. Even though we had his story, we didn't have like present day Rocket for a lot of it.
Yeah.
I feel like Nebula was a bit of a standout character.
Yeah.
We saw something happen with Drax that I loved. I'm trying to remember who said it to him. I think it might have been Mantis, that, you know, his purpose in life is to be a dad, and now he has an opportunity to be a dad again. That. Was it Nebula that said that? Okay.
That Drax isn't meant to be a destroyer. Drax is meant to be a dad.
Yeah.
And that made me cry.
Same. Oh, I saw the movie with my dad. I immediately looked at my dad and was smiling. I was like That was so beautiful. And then him surrounded by the children and seeing the joy that the children are bringing him when he's dancing. That was such a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was such a different because I agree with Drax as well. Drax really stood out in this movie to me for the same reasons, just because like, he's kind of been the comic relief and punching bag for so many Guardians related projects now.
Hmm.
But to kind of see him go totally opposite of where he was at the beginning of the first Guardians movie, where the first thing on his mind was revenge, destroying, not putting up with
Hmm.
XYZ. But now that especially when the kids show up, his total focus has changed. Like he no
Yeah,
longer has a sense of wanting revenge that we can see. Like he just is looking forward as opposed to still looking back at what has happened to him.
right.
Um,
It's
and
interesting when you look at Drax because, as you said, he's just a punching bag in the beginning. I mean, that first movie, we're introduced and he's like this brutal person who wants revenge for the loss of literally everyone he's ever loved. Meanwhile, at the same
yeah,
time, like he's just a punchline for a lot of it,
hmm
which is such
which
a weird way to look at a character.
it is, especially one like him. Like I get,
Like
maybe I
everyone in this
don't
movie is,
get, like
I don't get it because it's like everybody in this movie has been through something bad, but there's something so specifically traumatic about what he went through, like
hmm
the survivor's guilt that he must have. And
yes,
I the especially the idea that, as a man, the way society kind of is like, well, men are the protectors, and the fact that he wasn't able to
right,
protect his family. And we just kind of spend so much of that movie just like laughing at him.
yeah,
With Drax being
With
a
Drax, yeah,
being a
the
comic
fact that,
relief.
yeah. It's being
right,
more or
he's
less
this
a
comic
punching
relief
bag for
character. Meanwhile, he was forced to watch the brutal murder of everyone he's ever loved, and we spend that movie just joking about him.
yeah,
Yeah. We also
It's,
we
it's
never
it's interesting.
we, Drax. Everybody wants revenge on Thanos, and that like Drax does not get revenge. Like he doesn't
I
get
mean,
that.
Thanos goes away. Thanos does go away, but it's not
But it's not
Drax that
Drax
ultimately
killing
does it.
him by his hand,
No,
right? Like in the comics, there's a
no,
scene where Drax the Destroyer pushes his hand through Thanos and takes out his heart. And like,
yeah,
because that was Drax's purpose. Drax's purpose was to kill Thanos. But in the MCU, he doesn't get that. He doesn't get that. Is that
yeah,
catharsis? Would he have wanted
I
that?
almost
I'm not sure. Would it have helped?
I think it's almost better that it wasn't him, because first of all, everybody has a claim for why they should be the one to take out Thanos.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of characters that like validly have that claim, but
Right.
I almost would Drax have been any better if he was the one to have taken out Thanos? Would that, like, if he had, because I mean, I feel like we've seen that story before where this person is on a revenge journey and they finally kill the person that they have spent all of their time and focus on hunting down. And it's like, okay, now what? What did that, do you actually have any relief? Like the people you loved are still gone.
yeah.
So
That could have honestly,
would it have made a difference?
Yeah.
yeah, it could have honestly been like a setback for him in some ways, just because
Yeah.
like it could have taken away that moving forward aspect of it. Because with Endgame, obviously Tony Stark takes the final hit on Thanos, and everybody kind of gets their own sort of like go at him. And in
Hmm.
Infinity War, Gamora, in that alternate reality with the Reality Stone, kills him. In that, not really, but she made up her mind to do that because of what she
Right.
has against him and like the greater idea. But yeah, you're right. Drax doesn't really get that kind of moment, and really thinking about it, it probably would have not done much of anything for his character. And that's so weird to say
Yeah.
because of everything that Thanos had done to him specifically and his family.
I,
Yeah.
I think it's just a good example that like that Drax's whole point isn't that to get revenge, it's to have his daughter back, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's to have his family
Yeah.
back. That
Right.
people in real life misunderstand like what actually fixes things, right? What actually could help? Is it getting revenge, or is it finding some other way to love again?
Feel like
Mm.
Drax and what was Christian Bale's character in Thor's name? Gore.
Yeah,
I feel like Gore and Drax should have sat down and had a conversation
right.
because they both were people that lost their young daughter and as a result set out on revenge, but in a very different way.
Yeah. I'm
They
trying to
they
think.
they
Yeah.
both had revenge paths, but they set out on very different paths towards revenge. Whereas Drax was focused on the singular person responsible.
Mhm.
The difference is
Gore was like,
family.
well, my one god is dead and he's the one. And but then you know what? Like that's yeah, like Drax found a family.
found a family with the Guardians, right? And I think that makes a difference.
That
You
does make
know,
a difference.
but
But do you think that if Drax had ultimately gotten the opportunity and been the one to kill Thanos, and regardless of what that might have done for his character, would he then have gone on a rampage killing others the way that Gore did?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
I mean,
think so.
he's already
Probably not.
killing in the name of Guardians, right? Like he.
Yeah, I mean he is killing others, but it's not like but it's not the same. Whereas Gore is specifically like targeting. He's almost like a serial killer.
Right. Gore has a much bigger thing going on, which is kill all the gods. By the way,
Yeah.
the guard Peter always says like Drax is always like, all right, we're gonna kill this person. He's like, no, we're not gonna do that. But like Peter kills that one guy that he jumps out of
Right.
the thing with. Like, do the Guardians kill? Or the Guardians just don't kill as a first
Oh,
resort?
you're right. That was dark. Okay, first of all, this movie was dark because there was a lot more death than I think we typically have
Right.
seen.
Yeah.
I mean, you could make an argument that Infinity War has the biggest death count with, half
I
the
don't
entire
count it.
universe.
I don't count that. Because it
But
is death, but it's not death in the same way.
not in the same way. This movie has I mean, we saw an entire planet explode. Like we saw this, like we were like looking at those poor innocent animal people just like living their lives and then boom. And not to mention like all the people that were injured in that first scene and that one guy that with the computer brain thing.
Yeah.
Like that was dark, just him in the water and then they just walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, he sucked. I
Right.
wasn't rooting for him to live per se, but it was
Right.
dark.
Right. Because
Yeah,
I was
there were a
also
lot of
wondering as they
brutal-
skidded on him, I was like, is he strong? Does he
Yeah. And then it's just him in the water. I'm like, oh.
dead? By the way,
Yeah, it's like
have you guys watched Superstore?
I literally just started watching it yesterday.
That's Mateo.
I'm like 3 episodes.
That's the actor who plays Mateo in Superstore.
I see it now.
Yeah.
I've seen like ads for
I
the show, but
also-
I haven't
Yeah.
seen the actual show.
I think I've watched the first 2 or 3 episodes. I literally started it like yesterday or the day
Superstore.
before.
Superstore is great.
It's good.
Yeah.
I love sitcoms.
Yeah.
I also didn't realize that the Ravager with the sparkly face.
Is Michael Rosenbaum?
I had no idea until yesterday. Because I saw his name in the credits and afterwards I'm like, who the heck? Like I didn't see Michael Rosenbaum. Who the heck did he play? Oh, he's the sparkly dude.
So interestingly enough, like a lot of the people who have voiced people are people that we've seen before or whatnot. So the floating robot head that's with the Ravagers in Guardians 2 is voiced by Miley Cyrus. But I believe in this one, it's Tara Strong. I think it's Tara Strong.
Oh.
Um,
I did see that Linda Cardellini, I think that's how you say her name,
yeah.
was the voice of Lila.
Yeah.
And I think the motion capture for her, and she previously played Hawkeye's wife.
Yeah, she's Hawkeye's wife, and then she voices
Right.
Lila. And then there's an actress that pops up in a lot of James Gunn stuff. Her name's Michaela Hoover.
She was Floor.
She was Floor.
She was Floor.
You know,
And then she was the collector's like assistant slave girl thing, right?
No, she was one of the Nova Corps. She was the
Oh,
Nova
was she
Corps
one of the Nova Corps?
secretary She's like Glenn
Oh,
Close's
okay.
secretary in the first movie.
Oh, okay.
But she does a lot of she's, you know, and then Daniela Melchior, who is Ratcatcher in the Suicide Squad, is Ura, the pink faced girl that
that they hold at like gunpoint.
They hold the hostage. Yeah.
I thought I recognized her. And then of course there was the woman in like the control center for the whole weird optical thing.
Which is
is James Gunn's wife.
Yeah.
Jennifer Holland or something like that, I think is her name.
And then Nathan Fillion.
I'm happy anytime I see that man.
He was a dick in this though.
He's so good. He's so fun. You know that he just had so much fun with that role.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're starting to see more and more of him collaborating with James Gunn, which I hope that's true, and that we're gonna keep seeing. I know he was like in the Suicide Squad, but if they're just like rebooting the whole DC universe, put Nathan Fillion in something. I'm also curious to see how many of the Guardians are gonna end up in DC and it's who, because you know that's probably gonna happen.
I don't think he's gonna do everybody. Like,
but they'll end up there as like small parts, you know, like little cameos, but they're gonna end up in DC somehow.
I like it when their cameos aren't face cameos. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to be taken out. Like, the Nathan Fillion thing takes me out. Like, I understand it's funny. I like it. I'm not completely complaining about it. But, like, when you see that face, like, Daniela Melchior in the alien makeup, that's different. Like, you can barely recognize.
And she's not as big a name.
But Nathan Fillion playing Nathan Fillion kind of, you know.
Yeah.
It takes you out.
I don't mind like I don't mind if they're like that for like, you know, minor characters, especially, I mean, maybe I'm just making excuses because I like Nathan Fillion. But by the way, if anybody watches The Rookie, that season finale was dark.
Oh, okay. I don't watch The Rookie, but
you should. It's great. It's a good show.
Okay. All right.
Nice.
Nathan Fillion was supposed to be Wonder Man so like basically in Guardians 2, they had made movie posters and things like that where, because Wonder Man, Simon Williams is an actor and then he gets the powers. So it was supposed to be that Nathan Fillion was Simon Williams, but I think they cut some of that, like that stuff out.
Isn't why do I feel like I remember hearing that Wonder Man had been cast? Yeah, they're doing a new series and it's gonna be
Yahya Mateen.
Yeah, him.
Yeah,
I heard about that.
I mean, that's gonna be, I don't know what to expect from that, but you know, cool.
I didn't realize Nathan Fillion had originally been in talks for that character.
Yeah, but I think that's why they cut it. I think they cut it because Marvel was like, oh, we got plans for him, so we got to cut that, like those cameos.
Yeah, I can see how that, knowing next to nothing about the character of Wonder Man, like except that he's like an actor turned superhero, I can see how Nathan Fillion would be amusing in a role like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, having seen him in like, you know,
Captain Horrible sing-along blog.
There's that, or in Castle, just like the whole thing that he's like somebody famous now solving crimes.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be a fun role for him.
I'm trying to think a lot happens in this movie. It is so hard to keep track of everything that happens in this movie. There's the whole Orgo Corp thing with the living mass, like
it's so gross.
It's not digital stuff. It's all organic.
Yeah.
I
don't like that.
And they laser into the fat.
When they laser in, and then there's like
pieces of fat just kind of.
Yeah.
Was not a fan.
Such a like.
Given...
What
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it just kind of adds to the whole just like gruesome brutality of this movie, like with cutting dude's head open and then like seeing these fat particles come out, seeing somebody's fleshy face like without skin on it. Like they really went heavy on, hey, we're gonna try to make as many people throw up as possible with some of the imagery in this movie.
it makes me wonder, is the Orgo Corp headquarters thing, like, it's clearly biological, but is it
Alive? I don't
like
think it's alive.
alive? Is it conscious? Like,
I don't think it is.
probably not, but it's still like, oh,
The whole point
Yeah.
of
it's still
Orgo
just
Corp
so,
was like space law. Like Corp is within the confines of space law, right? But then High Evolutionary, all his other experiments are outside of that like
right.
legality.
And he's using Orgo Corp as like a cover.
To gain like just money. That's the capitalist
Almost
side,
like,
you know.
not to be the person that references DC, but that's what I obviously know best. It's like, it almost sounds like Cadmus.
Yeah, if it
Because
depends on
Cadmus is like this science lab. People know about Cadmus, but people don't realize necessarily, I mean, other than like some of
that
the
there's
Justice League, they don't realize
underground
all
stuff.
the horrible genetic experiments
Yeah. Yeah.
that people are performing.
Yeah.
Because that's, once again, it's like all genetic experiments and like genomes and
Yeah.
stuff that's very outside the bounds of ethics.
Orgo Corp having like eyeballs instead of security cameras. Like the security cameras aren't eyeballs.
I don't
And
like
just
that
like
either.
pieces of hair that are just like outside the skin
Yeah.
of the mass. It was wild. Like some of the design on this movie is just
The detail.
yeah. When they're looking for files, it's like this it's this system where you get this like blob of bio
And then it was a ball. I'm like, what is this? What honestly, I was waiting for somebody, like, they're like, okay, so all the information's in here. Cool. I'm like, nobody's going, okay, what do I do with this? Because that would have been my reaction. Like,
right.
Okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Where's the HDMI cord? Is it Bluetooth?
Yeah.
Do I need to charge it? What's going on?
What am I supposed to do with this? It's a ball of flesh.
Like Nebula knew how to plug in though. Like she's
like, I know what to do. I'm like, you do?
Where did Nebula get the new arm? Did we ever?
I was wondering the same thing.
Because
I would assume just because, I would assume that just because Rocket is a techie, I would assume that he just fashioned something together. I mean, he has a fascination with arms, so I'm sure that he probably had some scraps laying around or won it in a game of blackjack on the corner of nowhere, and
maybe he used. Did she have that arm in the holiday special?
she had a arm. I don't remember it doing as much.
I know she had a arm, but I don't remember her having it.
She doesn't
did
do
she
battle.
have that arm?
Like,
or did she like use, because I mean, did Rocket got Bucky's arm for Christmas? Did he use parts of Bucky's arm to build her new arm?
It was almost like a mix of Bucky's arm and like nanotechnology in a way. So of course everything's nanotechnology now in the MCU. But
or like weird biotech.
With all the characters and everything. Did you guys like Cosmo?
Oh my god, Cosmo was hysterical. Her entire plot was, I'm a good dog, take it back. But it was funny.
Yeah.
Who voiced Cosmo? Because I thought that was Tara Strong initially.
It's Maria Bakalova, who was, I guess her big claim to fame is she's Borat's daughter in the new Borat movie.
Cool.
You
never saw it. She just
saw
plays
the ads.
Borat's daughter, or she is Borat's.
She's not Sacha Baron Cohen's daughter, but she plays Borat's daughter in Borat 2.
Okay, I never saw either Borat.
It's Borat's subsequent movie film. That's the second. That's
the name of the movie.
Yeah. Well, the full title, I think it's Borat's subsequent movie film, Delivery of Prodigious Bribe to American Regime for Make Benefit Once Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan.
Of course.
I'm going to point to that as one of the reasons I did not see that movie.
This is quite the filmography for this person.
Yeah.
From Borat's daughter to Cosmo the dog in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
It has telekinesis.
Yeah. And she's also going to be in Creature Commandos, which is James Gunn's DC property.
Oh, okay.
And so James Gunn for
And that's going to be an
DC,
animated project.
yes and no. Like, it is animated, but they've also
It's animated, but it'll work.
They've cast the voice actors for the animated will also play live action versions of the Future Commandos.
Okay.
If they need to.
Right. Yeah.
So they cast according to looks as well, right?
Interesting.
And so that's yeah. So like that's she's the voice of Cosmo. And like yeah, Cosmo I thought like the people of nowhere were gonna die when those creatures came in, because they like there was a lot of creatures there. And I don't get
those things were disturbing.
Yeah, but they didn't, like, I guess they all got taken out. Like there was a lot that like went into that.
I'm sure some of them died. I mean, you got to assume with these movies that like when buildings are falling down, there are probably some casualties.
Yeah. I think they realized that they've already shown a lot of they've already shown a lot of gruesome stuff to a lot of people, and so just kind of adding on to that, it kind of makes it, I think it was whenever they were doing Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and they talked about how jarring that one death scene is at the end whenever he kills Murray, and how it's so jarring because you didn't see a lot of death within the movie itself, whereas in a lot of like big superhero movies you just see tons of it everywhere. And so I think maybe it was and so I think maybe they wanted to not deliberately, they just wanted the audience to focus on these specific gruesome scenes and these death scenes, and so just kind of adding to that fold with more casualties and nowhere would have kind of made it repetitive at that point. But I think it is definitely alluded to and kind of made us to believe, okay, there's definitely some casualties here.
Yeah, I mean, even going back to the very first Avengers movie, you got to assume that Chitauri got some people.
Oh yeah,
they just don't really talk about it. They don't really show it. You know, the focus is on the battle between the Avengers individually and the Chitauri, but I mean, there's parts of buildings coming down. Whether there are people in the building that's coming down or underneath the building that's coming down, somebody's getting squished.
I think that's like where reality kind of plays into it, because I mean, we're a generation that's so used to seeing just all-out warfare on television, and we see buildings falling, we see all this stuff, and so I think that is more so of the audience is going to know, because this is what they know as people dying. Like, this is what this means.
The Netflix, you know, like Daredevil talks about like the fact that New York was, you know, part like ground zero of the Chitauri invasion. And then Hawkeye kind of goes into it with Kate Bishop, right? In that like scene.
Yeah.
So like they touch on it, but that's the thing. That's what I like about the TV shows, that I think the TV shows should do more of, is tackle the minutia of the Marvel universe instead of trying to be a movie, a 6-hour movie.
Right.
It needs to tackle like the people who died in this one thing, the distrust of powered people, like
I mean, we saw that with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the focus on all the people who have been displaced as a result of people coming back.
Right. I want more blip stuff, but I feel like they've passed over the blip stuff now.
I know, but I want to know more about the blip so bad. Like, what was, I mean, we got some of it with the displaced people, but I want to know more about like what was it like for regular people during the blip, and then also post blip with, you know, what happened to the families, almost like the show Manifest, like what happened to the families where some of the you know, the husband was blipped and the wife eventually learned to move past her grief and fall in love again and get married, and okay, but now her first husband is back. What do you do?
Right. Even if the MCU has gotten past it, I want to shout out a guest of the show, friend of myself in the show. It's Steph Matarazzo. So Steph on TikTok and Instagram does dramatic scenes about people who have trauma from the blip. So she does. Yeah, she does
Think of
like,
something else.
you know, you get back with the person that you were with 5 years ago, but now they don't want to let you out of their sight. They're just like they're afraid you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get blipped again. They're afraid of
Yeah.
having
Mm-hmm.
that over again. So Steph does a really good job making dramatic scenes. Like it's easy. Like a lot of people do make funny scenes about like the blip and all that stuff, but like
Yeah.
she does a really good job at the reality of the situation. You
Right.
know, um, but maybe it's just up to TikTokers now.
I think it is. I mean, it's on us.
Yeah,
We're the anthology of the MCU at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I mean, I'm not going to pretend I'm good at writing stories, so I'm not going to put that on me. But
Yeah. Um, I let's finish this off by talking about the ending of Guardians and kind of where each character, you know, uh, uh, kind of leaves off. Oh, the heaven scene. By the way, I thought Rocket was gonna die. I thought he was
Yep.
actually gonna die at that point where it was
Mhm.
like Nebula's like he's gone, and Peter's like I can't. So I thought the message was that Peter can't save everybody. Like you can't,
yeah.
but he does, right?
Yeah.
And I thought Rocket was gonna die at that point, and I was like, oh, okay, this is just and maybe Rocket would get his happy ending by being in heaven with his friends. The only friend, like the not the
Yeah.
only friends he's ever known, but the first only friends he's ever known, right? I
Yeah.
thought that
They
that was
were.
his happy ending. Show heaven exists. Show that he gets a happy ending in heaven. That hurt. It hurts. Like
Yeah.
It did. It
and then
hurt.
Lila does the nose thing with him.
Uh,
And,
yeah. The moment that
Yeah.
the moment that Lila, like he was going, and she just puts her hand out and it says, "But not yet."
Not yet. Yeah.
I was sitting like in between like children in the theater, and I'm just like, okay, it's all right, don't cry, don't cry.
They
So
do-
it was just such a
they do a boom or something. There's this jerk that they do with sound when he gets pulled back to his body.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it like this movie, out of I think all the Marvel movies, this movie made me cry the most, and I couldn't breathe. I had trouble like breathing as I was crying, because pretty much from that, like from them dying, then we see the heaven scene, then the whole end where it's like bittersweet stuff. It's just me crying the whole time, and I'm just like you know.
Mhm.
I thought Lila was gonna live. I wasn't sure about
I-
Floor and Teefs, because I knew that
There
Rocket
was
gets
part of
out
me
of
that
there
thought-
somehow. I just
Yeah.
thought that she lives. I thought she gets out with him.
I was almost waiting for, like, we saw that her get shot and go down, but like, did she somehow actually end up surviving that, and then he was gonna find her again? And yeah, part of me thought she was somehow gonna survive it too.
Yeah, when they started
Once-
showing that planet with all of the other, like the ones he was basically using as soldiers, like the war pig,
Yeah.
I thought that there was going to be a moment where she was going to step out somewhere, like maybe she was going to be
Oh.
like recruited as a part of it and be this, I don't know, like almost kind of be like the Gamora version of like what is on this planet, you know what I mean, where she
Yeah.
kind of has this
Yeah.
new attitude, new angst about her, and then she sees Rocket, and then we kind of see the thing that Peter was hoping for with Gamora, but now that Rocket sees this person, he actually gets that instead of Peter getting this
Yeah.
person back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started freaking out because I thought that hugging scene was in the present, and when I found out it was the flashback, I was like, no. Once that connected in my head, I was like, that was my saving grace the whole time. I was like, they get reunited. That's a reuniting scene.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
It was just them being able to hug for the first time.
being out of the cage, right?
Yeah.
That whole thing kills me. It hurts.
Mhm.
And
I know
Rocket's
the
pain
dog-
as he screams.
Yeah. I know the dog doesn't die in this movie, but I feel like with all of the animal deaths and torture, this movie should be on Does the Dog Die?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the answer would be no, but other animals. Because
It leads us to the end where there's all the kids, right? They have to save the kids, and we think
Yeah.
that's what we got to do. We got to save the kids.
Yep.
And then Rocket finds
the babies.
more animals, and
And then he finds the raccoons.
I couldn't tell where it was going at any step of the way. I thought Rocket was just gonna walk away. I thought Rocket was just not gonna be able to save any of the animals, and then he.
Oh,
takes
I
the
didn't think that for a
raccoons.
minute.
Well, once he sees the raccoons, I knew he was gonna save the raccoons. But
Yeah.
then I thought he was only gonna save the raccoons. Like, at what point does the clock like tick down, right? Like where he just can't save everyone. And then the High Evolutionary shows up. And I'm like, how is Rocket gonna fight with a bunch of raccoons on himself? He saves every single, like the one that drops, he picks up, he saves him, and then
there's like 50 little babies all over him.
And this whole time he's been saying he's not a raccoon, right?
And
then he sees
he just didn't realize.
I think it was a denial, right? Like he knows that raccoons exist. He says, "What's a raccoon? I'm not a raccoon."
Yeah.
But he is.
But like seeing the babies, it all of a sudden took him back to that moment when he was chosen, and it was like that acceptance of like, this is what I am, and these are innocents just like me. I have to save them.
Yeah, just because he's very highly sensitive to being called, because he gets called vermin at some point. He gets called every animal except
rodent.
this. Yeah, and so I think he just has this idea of, I'm not an animal because animals are treated this way, and I don't want to be treated this way anymore. And and so when he finally sees that, it's like, oh, I am an animal. I need to accept this. And it kind of goes back to how he was the one to face God, because it wasn't any sort of animatronic added to him that did that. It was just him that did that. And so and whenever they say the line, whenever all the animals are coming aboard and they're like, we were only supposed to grab the higher life forms, and it's like, there they are, like they are. So
this movie does something that makes things make sense earlier. Rocket being told he's not good enough by the High Evolutionary to go to this new Earth. None of them are good enough. They're not evolved enough. They're not perfect enough. And then him always being called less than throughout all the Guardians movies. Not being treated as an equal, as a proper life form. It all kind of comes together. And when Lila says the story has always been about you, you just didn't know it.
Yeah. And you know, obviously, like so much of this movie was the Guardians fighting to save Rocket, but after they saved him, it was all about his fight to save everyone else.
Not just the higher life forms, right?
Not just the higher life forms, the animals, the innocents. I mean, obviously the children were innocent too, but animals are arguably more innocent because they don't have that higher level of thinking.
We deal with that with Mantis and the Abelisks. The return of the Abelisks, right? Those big creatures.
Yeah.
That she's like, they don't eat people, they eat batteries.
Right. It has been a minute since I saw the second one, and when they first showed monsters, I'm like, why have I seen this? And then she said the batteries. I was like, oh, that's right. I had totally forgotten that they were the same monsters.
Yeah. They don't eat people. The only time they eat a person is when Drax jumps into them.
Right. And all they wanted was their batteries.
Yeah.
They were just a little hungry.
They're animals also, right? They're innocent animals being used as tools, right?
Right.
And they take down the High Evolutionary pretty easy altogether, and like that was cool. We didn't need a long, drawn-out fight where he's the most powerful person in the world, right?
Yeah.
It was time for him to just go down.
Yeah. Everyone got their lick. And
yeah, when they showed the flashback where he scratches the heck out of the High Evolutionary, as soon as they then started showing the modern day scenes again, I'm like, looking on his face like, where are the scratches? Where are the
Right.
scars? And
Yeah.
then they pulled off the mask. I'm like, oh damn.
Yeah.
Like
The high evolution, like the actor is Chukwudi Iwuji. He
who
was
was in
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker.
Yeah. He
Oh, okay.
is so good because at some points I think he's being nice, but then he grabs Rocket's head. And he just I hate him so much. The actor, amazing. But I hate
Yeah.
And then you notice the scene where he goes to Aisha, which is Adam Warlock's mom,
Right.
and he puts the assistant puts the crate so that High Evolutionary can stand above her. Did you guys see that part?
Yeah, I caught that.
Yeah.
You know?
It was interesting to see Aisha in that position, having seen her in the first movie as like she's the high priestess of this highly advanced society, and they're beautiful and perfect and gold and sparkly and look at their technology, and only to find out they were just created and they aren't even perfect enough yet.
They're dumb, right? Or they're not smart enough. It kind of explains their actions in Volume 2.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. There's a lot of things in this movie that just tie in with the previous movies.
Yeah, I like the callbacks.
Yeah. It works really well. So Rocket saves the animals. Rocket is what is he what how does it end with Rocket? Is he a guardian? He's a guardian.
He's the leader of the Guardians. He's the new captain. There's the new Guardians, and it's him, Groot, Kraglin, one of the little girls,
Cosmo
and Morlock, and Cosmo.
Adam Morlock.
And Adam.
One of the girls, we don't see a hint of her powers in the movie. And I don't know how long it takes, like how long is the post credit afterwards, but people have been saying that's Phyla Vell. So
right, I saw that.
Phyla Vell is a character in the comics who, I mean, she's supposed to be a full-grown woman, and then this is just a kid version of her. But like, I believe she's the daughter of Mar-Vell. Yeah, she's the daughter of Mar-Vell. Reading. And so,
which makes me wonder: are we gonna see her in the Marvels?
I mean,
because the thing I was reading is that she at some point in the comics is Captain Marvel.
Yeah, she does take on the name Captain Marvel at some point. A lot of people have, right?
Yeah.
But
so would we see her? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at. She's an artificially created offspring of Mar-Vell. But Mar-Vell doesn't really exist in the MCU, so it's a little bit different. But
there's like there's
the woman,
like a gender bent version of Mar-Vell.
Yeah. But
so I mean they change the relationships though with a lot of these characters in the MCU.
This could just be no relation, but it's energy powers and flight.
Yeah.
Right? But a lot of characters have that now. Now, you know, in the MCU.
Yeah.
Energy projection.
It's kind of general energy.
It's you know. But which is interesting.
There's only so many powers out there.
Yeah. I mean that's an interesting thing. But yeah, that final Guardians lineup. Yeah, Rocket leads the Guardians to kill a bunch of animals at the end. I didn't. That's the part that kind of confused me. Is that like, just a stampede of animals that cannot be reasoned with?
Stopped. Possibly.
Or is it a horde of like it's an army of aliens?
I don't know. But it's like but they say something specifically about like we're the only thing between like them and like these innocent townspeople.
Right. So it has to be an army as opposed to a stampede of like I don't feel like the movie ends on them slaughtering a bunch of stampeding animals.
Yeah.
Right, because then they're just animals being animals. So like it has to be some sort of army that's like sentient.
Yeah.
Because after everything we just went through with that movie, Rocket is not about to slaughter a stampede of like animals just doing what they do. Right, exactly. Like It's
You
like
know,
in The Lion King, like there's the stampede that ultimately kills Mufasa, but they weren't setting out to kill him. They
No,
were just being buffalo.
they were running from the hyenas, I believe.
Right. They were like running on their instinct because they thought their lives were in danger.
Yeah.
They were just running. They were just stampeding. They were
Right.
just doing what animals do. Like they weren't responsible.
Right.
yeah,
So
it had to have been something underlying, just because the whole theme of the movie is to protect the innocent, and so
Yeah.
to send these things out for no reason unless they were sent by something else.
Yeah.
Like directly sent, not like a hyena situation where they're just running from something else. Like they had to
Right.
yeah,
a job to do,
Yeah.
quote unquote job to do.
yeah. Do you guys like the final Guardians lineup?
Yeah.
Would you guys
Yeah,
watch a movie with that lineup?
1,000%.
Yeah, I would. As long as Rocket and Groot are there, I'm gonna see it.
I
Yeah,
think that
That's my duo.
I think it's one that just makes sense. You know, you have like this, you have Adam who's getting a second chance. You have this, I forget what her name is, but the little girl who is just
Philo.
kind of,
At least that's what
yeah,
we assume.
assumed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have her who's just coming up. You have Rocket and Groot, who are both these well-seasoned, experienced fighters. And even with is it Kraglin? I keep forgetting
Yeah.
his name.
Yeah, Kraglin.
With Kraglin, who is kind of just coming into his own with this, and so it's not entirely square one with how they had the first set of Guardians, but in their respect, it is their sort of square one and new beginning into what is to come with them. And so I don't know, like
Yeah.
that imagery of them all being in suits really made me excited for what the future could hold for the Guardians of the Galaxy. And if it even is going to be called, I mean, oh, technically it's going to be called that, but are we going to see a standalone movie with just this team themselves? Maybe not, at least not for
I
a
don't
while.
know. I
Or
think it would be a long
Peter would
time.
come back, right?
Yeah, because I mean that's what it
Yeah. Well, I
said, is
mean,
that Star-Lord will
it
come
said,
back.
yeah.
At some point. We don't
Yeah,
know,
at some point.
right?
Yeah.
Secret Wars.
That's yeah. I feel like getting
Yeah.
the band back together is going to be a big thing in big
Yeah.
crossover events, right?
Yeah.
And the band is a lot bigger now.
Yes.
I mean, we have been said, I think James Gunn said that like this is the last time we'll see this lineup of the Guardians, but
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean that like we're just not getting more Guardians.
I would love for Drax to never fight again.
Yeah.
And I just want him to be a dad and raise his hundreds of new children.
Right. He has so many children that are
His
technically
Jup
smarter
Jups.
than him, but like you that's just the way life is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like the Phil Dunphy, for anybody who's seen Modern Family, the Phil Dunphy
Have
of
I seen
dads
Modern
now.
Family? It's my favorite show of all
It's such
time.
a good freaking show. But yeah, like he just gets to be like that, the Hugh Neutron, the Phil Dunphy, just the goofy,
Yeah.
lovable dad.
Like I love Phil so much. He's my favorite character.
These characters get their version of a happy ending, right? We would all
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
like a happy ending means the team stays together, they just become more powerful.
Yeah.
Though there are fans out there that have to be like, no, a happy ending is you just level up. Like people, fans, there's a brand of fans in any fandom that they're all about power scaling. They're all about like just
Yeah.
like pitting people against each other and leveling up. And it's like it isn't Dragon Ball Z. A person's goal in life is not just to be leveling up. You
Yeah.
know?
Right.
It's to find new
I did.
beginnings and to do what they need to
I
do.
I've seen at least one person comment. I don't even know where. I saw somebody was like on something related to the movie was like, well, this is the worst Guardians, and like it was clearly so tossed together. Did they even have a plot? I'm like, I don't know what you were watching, but I think you need to go back to the theater. They might have been playing the wrong movie.
I think that there are fans out there that lack self-awareness, that
Yeah.
they lack media literacy,
Yeah.
and that probably also, and it's not a dig to them because everybody needs therapy, but they should
Right.
think about getting therapy because
Everybody should get therapy. I mean, obviously, like I don't expect this to be everybody's favorite MCU movie. It's not even my favorite MCU movie. I don't expect it to be everybody's favorite Guardians movie. Not everybody is going to think it's the best movie ever. But there are some people there are people who are going to have like their valid reasons for like, you know what? I understand why everyone else did, but what just wasn't for me because of X, Y, and Z. And then there's going to be people who are blah, 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 something, there's women in it. You know?
Yada yada yada, woke, 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 yada yada.
Yeah, right. There's too many girls, therefore fake wokeness, go woke, go broke.
Do you guys like I another thing that just made me cry was the Star-Lord's ending. Seeing his
that was beautiful.
Seeing his grandpa for the first time since he left. And but having a mundane existence in the post-credit scene.
Yeah, they're just like eating cereal, and there's like the newspaper article that says, oh God, what did the newspaper article say?
Kevin Bacon abducted by aliens.
Oh yeah.
Oh, is that what I saw the alien abduction part? I didn't see Kevin Bacon. That's hilarious.
Kevin Bacon alien abduction tell all.
Yeah.
And they're just like so eating cereal.
And he's like, I don't want to mow her grass while her 45-year-old son watches or whatever. He's able-bodied. It's just the most mundane of conversations.
Yeah. You know what just occurred to me? The entire plot of the second movie is, you know, the big reveal that he's actually not fully human. He's half like planet god and actually has these insane powers. We never ever see him use those again.
Didn't they die with ego?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what's meant to be.
Oh, okay.
That when ego dies, he loses powers. That being said, he might have a base set of powers. Sense. He might have a base set of powers that like extra durability, you know.
Yeah. Or like, you know, oh, he just doesn't use them because he made it this far without them and he doesn't want to be his dad.
Right. You know. But like,
that was just like a random thought that just popped into my head. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah. But it's almost like this ending is what Star-Lord has been longing for, you know? Like, I think he just kind of wanted to sit down at his kitchen table and eat cereal, talking to his family. And this is, I mean, he's been in space for 40 years now, I guess. However old Star-Lord's supposed to be.
He said he's not.
He said, I'm not 50.
I'm not 50.
I'm not 50.
So we'll say 35, probably.
Yeah. How old is he in real life? I'm going to look that up.
I think he's definitely in his 40s.
Yeah, Chris Pratt, I think, is 44
I would say
like that.
He's 43.
I would argue he's in his
43.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But for him to be so offended by I'm not 50 is like, okay, so I think Star-Lord is supposed to probably be in his 30s.
Maybe.
I don't believe he's in his 30s.
You don't think so?
I don't think he looks like he's in his 30s.
That's fair.
I think he reasonably looks like he's in his 40s. That's not a bad thing, but he reasonably looks like he's in his 40s.
Yeah, Zoe Saldana is 44.
He doesn't look like he could be. He does not look like he would be in his like late 30s at the absolute youngest, but even that I wouldn't buy. Like, he does not look like he would be within 10 years of me.
Yeah, I think I was going off the early 2000s high schooler look, like, oh, they look like they're 30, so
yeah,
so he must be 30.
I mean, Karen Gillan is one of the youngest. Karen Gillan is 35.
How old is she? Okay.
Karen Gillan's Dave Bautista is 54.
Yeah,
I believe that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Pom Clementif is 37.
Really?
Yeah.
She looks younger.
And then the other voices, the voices don't count.
The voices don't count. Are you trying to tell me that Vin Diesel is not a teenager?
Yeah. Well, now he's not Teen Groot anymore. Well, did you guys like his upgrade? His like crack, like King Groot looking thing?
Oh, the kaiju.
No, well, there's the kaiju, but then at the end, the post-credit scene.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He's also aged a little bit more. That's why I'm trying to like. There has to be a time jump there.
It definitely surprised me. I feel like he was still almost like a teenager in this, but like, see, I looked at it as like Infinity War Groot is like early teenager, borderline preteen, like 12, 13.
Yeah.
And then this would be like 17, 18, and he's like jacked like a football player.
Holiday special Groot also looked different than this Groot, so there is a.
But it was like not much different, just a smidge. He was still pretty jacked in that.
Yeah, it's like high school football player.
I would say like
there you go,
late teens. I would say like late teens versus like The last time
Yeah.
we saw him in Infinity War was like early teens.
But the post credits, this
Went through a
post
growth
credits
spurt.
Oh,
was
massive.
like,
Yeah.
you know,
Like this guy has a mortgage. Like-
It almost makes me wonder, like, how old is like when we first see Groot, how old is he supposed to be there?
He's also
'Cause
built
it's-
different, right? Like
He's
just
built completely different. Like he's much
skinnier. He's
like yeah, he's skinnier, he's sinewy, he's not
It's like he went from
bulked up.
basketball player to football player.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's because it's his son. It's not him.
Yeah,
You know?
true.
Right, it's not him, but it's like I don't know, I guess I just made the assumption that he would eventually grow to look like him because of like he came from him, and
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Yeah.
I assumed he would be like a clone
But he's I don't
if
know.
he grew from his splinters.
Yeah.
Yeah. What really Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say what also struck me about Groot is not only like, you know, his size difference, but his huge I guess for him jump in vocabulary. Just all of a sudden, just
Yeah.
saying I love you guys. It's
Okay.
like, wait a minute.
Wait,
wanna
I have
talk
a
about
theory
this.
that I saw.
I have a theory too.
Okay.
Cailin, I want to hear your theory. I did want to talk about
All
this
right.
on this episode.
Okay. I don't
What's your
want to
theory?
take credit, but I don't remember. I don't want to take full credit. I think I saw it in a comment on TikTok. I don't know who said it, but somebody said that it wasn't necessarily like the theory is that it wasn't that he said, I love you guys. It's that we have finally learned
Understood.
spend enough time with him to that was my
Yes.
reaction.
Yes.
Like now we understand him. It's not that he's still saying I am Groot, but we now understand what he actually means when he says it.
Yes. Yes.
Huh.
Exactly.
I like that.
I saw
I don't
that
care
and I
what
was
they
like,
even say. That's
yep.
it for me. I don't care
That's
if they
the
come
only
out
explanation I
disproving
will
it.
accept.
That's it.
'Cause
We are Groot. That's it.
Here's the thing. Gamora is surprised when she understands Groot at the end.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's a pheromone thing. I think it's you spend enough time with Groot, you understand him by the way I'm chalking it up to plant pheromones, but like you spend enough time,
or you take
understand
the
him.
Groot language class like Thor did.
It was an
Well,
elective.
I guess that's
It was an elective.
Yeah, right. But like you spend enough time with Groot, you understand him, and you don't even notice. That's why like
Yeah.
Gamora was like, what? That's why
Mhm.
we didn't have to take the Groot class to understand him. It's just that
Right.
we now have
I'm trying to
spent
remember.
3 whole movies and then some other stuff with him. We finally checked in. We finally know.
Now, I'm trying to remember because I have to go back and rewatch the first. In the first movie, obviously Rocket and Groot are already a team, so Rocket understands him. Do the others understand Groot the first time we're seeing him, or does it take some time for them to like pick up on what he's saying?
I don't think they do.
Yeah, until maybe the second movie, right?
All right. That's another reason I have to rewatch.
Because that's the first time even the audience, as mainstream pop culture, have been introduced to Groot. Like the fact that Groot is a household name now is a testament to the MCU.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody knows Groot.
But it's so funny because he was not a major character in the comics ever. Like he was just this weird side character that was in comics, and now he's a household name.
Yeah. Everybody loves Groot. Everybody. We just did an art gallery at my company. Like they just want to encourage everybody to be artistic outside of just like our job. And the theme was trees and leaves. So I of course did Groot.
As you should.
And I've been getting so many compliments at the office on it. Everybody loves it. Because everybody loves Groot.
Can we see it or?
I don't have it here. It's on my Instagram if you like scroll down just a little.
Yeah. As we close this up, where do we want to see the MCU go with these characters? Where do we think they're gonna go? Are we gonna get another Guardians movie? I don't think it's gonna be James Gunn, but I think that if they bring in another director to do the new Guardians, let's just say, it needs to be somebody with the same sensibilities and comedic timing. Which means either bringing in Taika, because maybe this might be more of something that Taika may benefit better from being on Guardians than he does on Thor.
Mm.
Or bringing in a new director that can do this sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it needs to be a similar director, but also one that can
bring their own
yes.
something.
Because we've seen they are playful. I think they should have that root still. I think they should be grounded in the sense of having that playful nature with them. But at the same time, they've been through a lot at this point, like individually, together. And yes, this is a new team, but I think to kind of keep it fresh and to kind of keep it from being compared to previous Guardians of the Galaxy, I think it kind of does need to have its roots, but also not go completely serious, but just kind of have a different vibe altogether.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna throw out some crazy things about. What if Chris Pratt directed it? What if Dave Bautista directed it? Dave Bautista is a very he is smart. Like he's pretty smart. Like
he is very talented.
Yeah,
he's talented. He pushes himself artistically. Like he's the one wrestler. And John Cena's really good too. But he came from pro wrestling that is way more than that, right?
I feel like when Dave Bautista first my first exposure to him was the Guardians, and I think that was the same for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people probably, and I'll admit I was part of this. I kind of assumed that he was yet another wrestler trying to be Dwayne Johnson, and have an acting career. And with Drax is the only thing I had seen him in. His character was funny, but it wasn't like it was. We hadn't spent a ton of time with the character, and it's okay, can he just play this one dumb funny character, or what else? And then I started seeing him in all these other projects, and oh my god, he's fantastic.
Yeah,
he's so talented.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that more and more people are casting him in projects, because he's a delight.
Yes, he said it himself. He wants to be more of an artist. He doesn't want to be assigned to these flashy projects. And as somebody who's been I've been an avid wrestling fan my whole life, and so seeing him wrestle and then kind of go into this was what are you trying to be like The Rock? You're trying to do this,
right?
But just seeing how he's really come into his own in all of this, starting with the Guardians, but after seeing him in Knock at the Cabin, it just totally flipped my opinion of
for
his
me it was
Blade Runner, the Blade Runner sequel. I heard I never saw the Blade Runner sequel.
He was in that,
but I heard
it was
that
good.
was an amazing thing for him.
He was very good in that. Just as recently as Glass Onion. I thought he was so good. First of all, Glass Onion was fantastic, but he was still this big jacked up guy, but I feel like that was such a different role for him as far as the personality of the character. Drax, he's this big jacked up guy, but he's a caring person. Whereas this guy was just and I thought he was very good in that. And the more I see of him, the more talented I realize he is.
I wouldn't be surprised if they kept it in the family, is what I'm trying to say. If they do a new Guardians movie, right?
But I thought
James Gunn,
he doesn't. But I thought Dave Bautista has said, maybe I heard it wrong, or maybe his opinion has changed, but I feel like I've seen him say that he doesn't want to work. He likes working with the Guardians and James Gunn, but he doesn't necessarily want to work with Marvel and Disney anymore, that he's had some negative experiences in regards to that.
I heard that, but I also
think I don't know if
things could change. First thing, in time, things can change.
And then things could change.
If you give someone the power, for example,
if he's the director.
Another left-wing choice that I think could also bring Dave Bautista back, though I don't want to actually see Dave Bautista come back. That's why I'm saying, if you gave him director role, Drax doesn't have to be in it. Or Drax could just be teaching catch to some kids. And then that's all you see. It's a little scene.
A little cameo.
They go to visit for Christmas.
What if Rian Johnson did a new Guardians movie?
Ooh.
He has history with Marvel or with Star Wars, so Disney through Star Wars.
True.
And
And I don't care what people say. That was not as bad as people like to say it
no,
was.
I
The
watched
Last
it. I
Jedi is
watched it again.
amazing.
Yeah, I watched
It's
it again last
great.
night. It's great.
Yeah, you were saying.
The
I
problem
liked
is
Last
Rise
Jedi.
of Skywalker not picking up what The Last Jedi dropped. It was a handoff,
Yeah.
and they fumbled it. That's the
Yep.
problem.
Yeah.
You know?
I watched The Force Awakens on Star Wars Day because that's my favorite Star Wars movie. And
Mhm.
I don't love the sequels as a whole, mostly because I watched The Force Awakens and it's like I love it so much, and then it's like, what could have been. Like
Yeah.
it set up so much that the Rise of Skywalker that just didn't
No.
follow through on.
Yeah. But yeah,
anyway.
there are ways that they can continue with the Guardians series, or the Guardian series just could be over, or these characters can go appear in other cosmic movies.
Yeah,
because we have a good amount of cosmic movies now.
Yeah, I would definitely. If we get another Guardians movie, it's not going to be for a very long time, and it's never going to be the same lineup.
No.
Yeah.
However, I do think we will see at least the new iteration of the Guardians, at the very least by the next Avengers, in the next Avengers movie, or like the next Avengers like two-parter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether we see them in the first one or the second, because there's King Dynasty and then
Secret Wars.
Right. So I can almost guarantee we're going to see the new iteration of the Guardians in at least one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Star-Lord will come back for that one. I think that's going to be
absolutely.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we'll ever see Gamora again. She's off doing her thing with the Ravagers.
Yeah.
Drax is going to be doing his thing with being a dad. Oh yeah. I mean, we might get who knows? They might do a Disney Plus show.
Here's the thing also with a Ravager spinoff, Michelle Yeoh is in the Ravagers. Not in this movie, but at the end of movie 2.
But she is a Ravager. She's a Ravager captain, but then she's also Shang-Chi's aunt.
Yeah. That's true.
She's also Shang-Chi's aunt.
Hey, if Hawkeye's wife can be an otter, then
yeah.
If Gemma Chan can be both Minerva and Cersei.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you guys have any final thoughts about Guardians Volume 3? Other than I cried way too much.
Yeah. It was just great. Like it was so much, and yet it stayed so grounded at the same time. Like it really, and kind of going back to the trilogies or the sagas of the Marvel universe, it's one of, I think, one other one, because Iron Man didn't really have to rely on this at the same time, where No Way Home and Civil War, those are the third movies in those respective trilogies. They didn't rely on it, but they had a lot of just other characters kind of putting their 2 cents into this. Like you have, a lot of nostalgia with No Way Home. You have essentially an Avengers movie with Civil War, but this one just stayed true to its team. It did not pull from any other sort of realm. It just stayed true to it. And I think there's a lot of respect there with it. And I think James Gunn as a director and writer just wanted to have that sort of final seal and respect to his project that he created and built up, and it now has this huge legacy within Marvel movies. And like you said at the very beginning, where before, like, it wasn't a very popular sort of like comic line. It was something that was there, and then whenever you heard there was going to be a movie about it, it's like, and so to go from that to where we're at now is just astounding in so many ways.
This has been an era.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is, I think, decades from now, when, our kids are watching old movies the way we watch movies from like the 70s and 80s. Obviously people are going to be watching the MCU, but the Guardians are definitely going to be a standout of the overall franchise for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they almost start the nostalgia trip that we're on now? Like where it had like the older music, and now with Stranger Things brought a lot of nostalgia there. Do you think was Guardians like kind of the first step in this direction?
I think Guardians was before Stranger Things. I feel like Stranger
Right.
Things was 2016 and Guardians
Yeah.
was 2014.
Yes. Yeah. So like, just I don't know, just the trip of I don't know,
I
just
mean,
a
I'm
whole
always on the nostalgia
generation.
train.
Yeah, like a whole generation now is in like this nostalgia trip of, oh, I love this old music. I
Yeah.
love this old game. I love this old XYZ.
I mean, I think part of that comes from, as millennials, the world is chaos.
Yes.
And like we are growing up in a time unlike any generation before us. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, like, there are the generations that lived through World War II, and those were horrific times. We're going through a different type of horrific time, but
Yeah.
it's such a specific time, especially now that like we have access to this mass amount of communication
Hmm.
that our prior generations didn't have, that
True.
I almost think the big spike in nostalgia is us reaching back to like simpler times, whether it was times before us or like the time when we were a child and that stuff didn't affect us,
Yeah.
Nice.
you
Taking it,
know?
yeah. Taking it back to
Going back to that time of innocence,
Yeah.
which relates
Yeah, the
back to
time
what
when
this movie was about.
right, exactly. Like, I mean, I constantly find myself watching. Lately, I've been very much in a kick of watching some of my old favorite movies from when I was a kid, or movies that came out when I was a kid, like old
Hmm.
rom-coms that I didn't necessarily watch as a kid, but they were released in like 2003. And watching those movies just brings me back to 2003, and
Yeah.
it just feels simpler and less chaotic.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you guys have been here to be able to talk about this movie. Because again, we can keep talking about this movie, but truth be told, there's gonna be another Marvel movie
Yeah.
coming out, and everything else. But like, Guardians is something special, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that like in my opinion, stuck the landing.
Hmm.
We got a good solid trilogy plus some other stuff, right? I'm happy. It's bittersweet,
Yeah.
right? It's over, but it ended well. Um,
Yeah.
but thank you guys so much for coming on the show and talking with me about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Um, before we get going, where can people find you online? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug? Aaron, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so these usernames bounce back and forth. I just need to make it all one. So on Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at Aaron K Gaines. On TikTok, you can find me just Aaron Gaines. Yeah, I'm trying to gear back up and do more cosplay content. I'm trying to take it in a different direction and do more like media-based content, whether it be kind of like nostalgic stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm doing over there, and I'll be going to a couple conventions here in the next couple months. Nashville Comic Con, Ranger Stop in Atlanta. So if you're in the area, I'll be there.
Okay, awesome. Wait, sorry, what were the cons that you were going to?
Oh, Nashville Comic Con is coming up soon, and then Ranger Stop in Atlanta. It's like a Power Rangers oriented convention. It's like
Ah,
Power Rangers anime plus like older like Nickelodeon stars show up sometimes. So it's just a cool small convention, not really small, but small in comparison to like a lot of conventions that are around.
Yeah.
hmm
We have Power Morphicon out here, I think.
Yeah, it's basically a smaller version
Oh.
of that.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. Cailin, same for you.
You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Comics by Cailin. Those are really my only two major social medias. As far as what I have coming up, I filmed a bunch of Batgirl and Black Widow stuff recently, so I'm kind of in the process of going through and posting those. I'm trying to plan out my cosplays for the upcoming year. My big plan is to do Nightwing, and
Ooh.
um, I'd like to ideally have him fully ready for New York Comic Con, which I'm desperately keeping an eye on those ticket dates.
Yeah.
I'm just glad they're not going on sale when I'm out of the country, because that was my fear for a minute.
Let me know when
They
those
go on
get on
sale.
sale. I've been thinking about going because I've never been to New
So
York.
Yeah.
So they have opened up the press and content creator
Oh,
applications for New York Comic Con.
Okay.
So do that fast, because they said that they'll get back to you within like 3 weeks. So
okay.
I'll send you the link. Like,
Yeah.
you want to fill that out at ASAP. And so hopefully I'll hear back from that, but I don't expect to get the content creator badge. I'm not big enough. But regular fan verified goes on sale like June 11th.
Okay.
And then if you haven't already, if you're not verified from last year, then there's another date for new verification.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
But yeah, my next con is going to be Terrificon here in Connecticut, and I'm excited for that. I'm going with some friends I met at C2E2 plus one of my friends from high school.
That's awesome.
I have no idea what I'm wearing for that yet, but yeah, it's a good one.
If you guys ever come out to California, you gotta let me know.
Oh, absolutely.
The next con that I'm going to, I think, is San Diego Comic-Con.
Nice.
I got so like when you get tickets, you are eligible for pre-sale the next year. As long as you get
that's
regular,
the same with New York.
as long as you keep going, then you're eligible for pre-sale the next year. And as long as you get So I used to do that until one year I didn't go. And it messed me up and it dropped me back. And I haven't been able to get back to a legitimate sale. I'm not going to explain what that means, but legitimately.
No, I know what you mean.
And so then this year was the first time back on that. So.
Good.
But I got tickets for Thursday and Sunday. So I'm going to just be there 4 days. And then Friday and Saturday, just do free stuff and like maybe find things to make content for.
Yeah. I mean, there's people that like hang around outside the cons, and
there's a lot of outdoor events there that are con related, but not. You don't need a badge for
right.
There's a lot of cool stuff. So I'm going to be there at San Diego Comic-Con, and then maybe New York Comic-Con. I'm looking at it.
You should. I hope you come to New York. A lot of the people that were at C2E2 are going to be at New York again, or at least the people I was with at C2E2.
Yeah. So. We'll see how that
goes. People have already started booking Airbnbs and tickets haven't even gone on sale yet.
I need to book an Airbnb for San Diego, so I'm a little behind on that. So I got to worry about that. Thank you guys so much, Cailin, Aaron. Thank you so much for coming on this show and talking with me about Guardians. For anyone out there who is watching us, you were watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. Or if you're listening to the podcast, it's wherever you get your podcast from. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. That's where you can find us on podcasts, pretty much everywhere. You can find us on social media. Our big ones are Instagram and TikTok at The Keeg Show. We're also on Facebook and Twitter at The Keeg Show /The Keeg Show, that sort of thing. But pretty much TikTok and Instagram are our two biggest ones. You can also find us on patreon.com/The Keeg Show if you want to donate to The Keeg and find whatever subscription tier that is right for you. We appreciate it no matter what. Definitely helps the show. Other than all of that, we got a lot of cool movies coming up this summer, so definitely stay tuned for the Keeg Talks about all those movies. We also got the Secret Invasion after show that will be starting up when Secret Invasion comes out, and then we have Comic Talk every Thursdays. So either way, you can find more information at on Instagram or TikTok at the Keeg Show for that. But that's pretty much the gist of things. Thank you guys so much for being on here. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been another episode of the Keeg Talks. The Keeg Talks, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Super fast, gotta beat the boss and get the loot, cause it's the king, and we got geek